Newsfirst Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. This evening we thought we'd discuss something that is very much on the minds of most Sri Lankans, especially youthful Sri Lanka, and that is of course the environment, the impact that various actions are damaging the environment. This worries a lot of people, and we get, let's say, a fair number of messages, various forms, SMSs, emails, about this very subject, the environment. And to discuss that aspect, we've got here with us tonight, he's a health specialist, but he's also an environmental activist, and he knows what he's saying about the environment. Let's see what he has to say about the impact. What is the impact that's going on in our country today? Very good evening to you, Dr. Prasanna Cooray.
Good evening, Faraz. Yeah, with regard to the impact of environmental degradation on our country, actually, Sri Lanka is considered one of the worst affected countries with regard to environmental degradation as well as climate change. And now there is a very strong understanding among the scientists and the world community that climate change is one of the foremost issues faced by the world, global warming as well as climate change. And in years to come, the climate change would be a problem that the world has to face on a daily basis. So, with regard to the worst affected countries, Sri Lanka is always among the first 5.
Really?
So this is, in fact, according to one report, Sri Lanka is rated number 2 next to Puerto Rico.
Can I just try and put this in perspective? 1948, the Singharaja forest was approximately 100,000 hectares. What's the figure today?
Well, it was till very recently, the extent of Singharaja was 11,187 hectares to be exact. This was so till why I said very recently was, there was a gazette notification signed by the former president, Mr. Maithripala Sirisena, as the Minister of Environment towards the tail end of his tenure, and this particular gazette was to amalgamate another 9 secondary forests around Singharaja into Singharaja, and to make this one big chunk of forest.
And
so,
that would be how much then?
And with this, it becomes 36,000 plus hectares. Actually,
is that been implemented now?
Well, this gazette was outed in, if I remember right, in November 2020, and so on paper now Singharaja is 36,000 plus hectares in extent.
Okay, is that only on paper, but is also in fact?
Well, whether it's a fact is something for us to see. Well,
do you have is it very well, is it clearly demarcated?
Well, that's what we hear from the authorities. It is demarcated, and in fact there was a delay, quite a long delay in the release of this gazette. Actually, this gazette was signed in November 2019, but this was outed in November 2020. So there was a one year delay. So
why is that?
And we were
What
very
happened?
inquisitive. We were very inquisitive about this, and we were questioning why this delay. And the repeated answer we got was that they were in the measuring process. So what they say that the forest reserve had been demarcated now, but still we didn't. At least I have not received an official map of the re-demarcated forest.
Okay, and now the Singharaja forest is a world recognized site. It's
Absolutely.
done by UNESCO.
Yes, absolutely. This is Sri Lanka's first natural World Heritage Site, which was designated in 1988.
Right.
Actually, Singharaja has a very quite a long history, as well as very sad history, so to speak, because I would say
Why sad?
Yeah, I would come to that if I may first briefly talk about its history, because there is a very important point for me to stress, because its value was first realized by the British colonial rulers.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was in 1875 when Singharaja was first awarded a legal status and made a forest reserve. Actually, this further increased in extent 50 years later in 1825, rather 1925. And in 1948, we get independence, and 22 years thereafter, in 1970 or little after 1970, during the 1970 to 1977 period, we experienced the worst insult Singharaja ever experienced, because during that time the government made a decision to fell Singharaja's, the world treasures, trees for production of plywood and chipwood.
There was no other place to get the trees from, only at the Singharaja? Really?
That, of course, Faraz, that's very unfair you asking me that question.
But you would have studied the matter. What do your studies indicate?
Yes, of course, that was the question asked by the activist of that time, and in fact, I would say that was the real initiation of environmental activism in this country. When this was taking place, when the trees of Singharaja fell for this activity, people like Irangani Serasinghe, her sister Kamani Vitarana, and also I should mention this wonderful gentleman from Switzerland, Mr. Thilo Hoffmann, and also personalities like Lindy Dialvis. So this is what we hear from
so those were the activists of the day
of that time, and they got together and they formed this organization called Rukrakagano, who fought tooth and nail to safeguard Singharaja. So
thank you very much for your questions by SMS, of course, 0772 300 305. It started. I knew this would happen because we're discussing environment. Here we go. The Navala School Lane environmental disaster. A road going as a bridge over the marsh in Navala is said to be not harmful to the environment. So says the RDA. There has been no EIA done. Now, many things like that. Tell me, why do they want to go and encroach on the Singharaja forest? Why destroy our forest? Is there a shortage of land elsewhere to put up hotels and beauty spots and even put in villages and so on?
Yeah, so now this is the real issue. right? I think one reason for this is we not realizing the importance of our environment, and especially to our today's topic, the forest, and again with regard to forest, the rainforest, because now in fact, when you consider Sri Lanka, it's a very unique country, I would say, and especially with regard to our rainforest formation. In fact, the kind of rainforest that we experience in Sri Lanka, you don't get in rest of the entire South Asia.
May I ask, in your opinion, you may not be fully qualified to answer this, even though you're a doctor, and it is this: do you think that successive parliamentarians in Sri Lanka, elected by the people, appointed as well, some of them, do you think that any of them really understand the science behind having a natural rainforest and the need to protect it? Do you think any of them have the capacity to understand the serious implications?
For us, our track record very clearly says that thus far, no politician or no government has ever been cognizant of this fact. And that is the very reason for the plight that Singharaja had to undergo.
Well, no president, as far as I know, has championed the environment and been elected on the basis of that being the #1 priority. So it appears that politicians, leaders in our country, don't consider the environment to be so important, or that's how it seems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, now this is the sorry state, because as at the beginning, as we said, the biggest problems the world going to face in very near future. In fact, you know, the impact of this is already seen the world over. The biggest issues would be climate change, global warming. But and on the other hand, Sri Lanka is already predicted as one of the countries which is going to be worst hit by this. And in fact, I would say it has come into being in Sri Lanka. This is why we see now, say for example, now there are times when we see drought in one part of the country, we see flooding in another part of the country at the same time. So this was very uncustomary for Sri Lanka. And even when the droughts occur, those could be very disastrous, very bad droughts. At the same time, even the rains could be very torrential and very torrential, and lot of rains in very short period of time, resulting in floods and a lot of devastation. So it is very clear that our environmental system has, or the environment impact has changed over the years. So this is something that the entire country, the population, as well as the politicians need to be cognizant of and should take action to prevent such occurrences.
And when we come back after the break, let's find out where we draw the line between environmental protection and the need for development. In the meantime, let's take a look at the headlines for this evening's primetime news from Newsfirst.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. I am in conversation with an environmental activist, Dr. Prasanna Cooray. So, Dr. Cooray, we understand the need to protect our environment and so on. But why is it is there a shortage of land? Is that why the protected areas are being affected? Don't we have enough land? Is our population so big and so explosive that we need to go and encroach on these lands?
I think, Faraz, this is the biggest myth. Actually, in our country with regard to agriculture and farming, I think, well, this is a fact. The crucial thing is that, I mean, it's not a lack of agricultural land.
Production?
Which affect production. Actually, the issue is with distribution. What I mean, the problems faced by the farmers as well as the problems faced by the consumers, all are offshoots of this issue, the issue of distribution. So actually, we produce enough food for us, and in fact, even for export. But what we experience here is that there is no proper mechanism of collection and distribution, and thereby invariably, on one hand, the farmer is very less rewarded, and at the same time, the consumer pays a lot. So now this is the mismatch. This is the problem area that needs to be corrected. So without attending to this, you go in on a deforestation spree in the name of increased food production. That is disastrous.
Do you think our leaders are surrounding themselves with the right kind of advisors? The reason I'm saying that is we had President Gotabaya assure people that some road in the middle of some forest will not happen until he turned up there himself, and then lo and behold, that road's still being made. Now, obviously, they took the side of there was a need in their minds. But do you think that clearly the president can't know everything about everything, and so you have advisors and so on? Do you think those people are being partisan or acting for some other collateral purpose in the advisories they give the president?
Yeah. If there are advisors, I think they wrongly advise. Because, and at the same time, they do not have enough insights about this issue. In fact, if you look back at the history, and even in the recent history, one good example that I can give you is from Ethiopia. This person called Haile Mariam Mengistu, who became the president. Right. He was a colonel in the army before, and following a coup, he captured the power in Ethiopia, and even he went on this, so-called agricultural reforms, and the land reforms, and this agricultural drive. Ethiopia is a country which is very rich, again, in rainforests and in forest cover in general. This forest land was distributed among the peasants with the intention of increasing the food production. But all of us know what the effect of that was, because very shortly, in very few years, Ethiopia experienced a very, very bad drought and lack of food and all miseries that you can think of.
All hell broke loose, in short.
Absolutely.
And I wonder what happened to President Mengitsu's political fortunes thereafter. But do you think that, what would you welcome? Do you want, what is it that you would welcome this government, if any government wants to be really serious about the environment?
Well, I suppose what is very needed is to be cognizant of the dynamics of environment and the need to protect it. Because, as I said before, Sri Lanka is a country, faced by these threats of climate change and global warming. And on the other hand, Sri Lanka is a country which is very fastly losing its forest cover.
What's the problem in terms of that? What percentage are we? Where do we fit on the world forest cover ranking?
When it comes to deforestation, Sri Lanka is always among the worst 10 countries. Actually, it is among the worst 5, we can say. So, now in fact, when you take the last 20 years, we have been losing around 45,000 hectares per year annually. And with regard to rainforest, we have been losing around 9,500 hectares per year. So this is a huge amount. And again, the other important thing that we got to remember about this is, because the value of forest, especially with regard to as a carbon sink, as well as in managing the water resources, and also managing the climate conditions, and also our fauna and flora. And about our fauna and flora, what I say, we have to be concerned about our other Sri Lankans.
The fauna and flora.
Fauna and flora. Because in Sri Lanka, there are some around 2,800 species of different animals, of which 38% is endemic to our country. And with regard to flora, we have around a little more than 3,000 species, of which there are again 30% is endemic to our country. So these species are only found in Sri Lanka. And it is, I'm not romanticizing this.
No.
I'm talking about the real value of this.
So we have our government, the people of Sri Lanka, the forgotten people of Sri Lanka, the other people of Sri Lanka, all have a duty to protect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we see in the political sphere, sometimes they talk about various races that can go extinct and at risk of extinction.
Yeah.
Well, that extinction is there for what we say these other Sri Lankans. So this is a very clear-cut message that I would like to take to people. So this concern is very important from the side of we Sri Lankans.
And Dr. Cooray, what of all the, let's take the next 20 years, will we lose all our leopards in the next 20 years?
Well, yeah, that's possibilities there. I mean, the IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, from time to time it releases this document which is popularly known as the Red List.
Yeah.
And there are many species it has identified that are either vulnerable or facing extinction. So we got to be, very concerned about this. So I think, now these are, from the environment side, these are the issues that need to surface more on the political level, on national level, and these are very things that we need to discuss.
Wonderful. Dr. Prasanna Cooray, thank you very much for being on Newsline Live. A very important message. You can count on the support of this network for all matters environmental, because we believe that that is truly in the national interest of the Republic of Sri Lanka. On that note, it's now time for the primetime news from News First. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend ahead of you. And of course, God bless you.